The Human Experience. Inside the Humanities at Stanford University. humanexperience.stanford.edu.
Doing art history is a way of thinking about culture in a large sense. Although your focus of interest may be a body of work of art, because works of art both are constructed by an author or an artist, the way a text is, but they're also disseminated in ways that are unusual. Public exhibitions, for example, sometimes public monuments. They have immediately a kind of a public life that texts may or may not have, depending on whether they're published right away or depending on whether they sell a lot of copies or something like that. So for me, doing art history immediately means that one has to immerse oneself in the culture. And that's one of the reasons, or I suppose one of the reasons behind the work that I did most recently, which was to write a kind of a cultural history of Paris. First of all, because I love Paris, and I just felt like I wanted to write a book about it. But secondly, because it was first a period of Paris, that early 19th century, that particularly for American audiences is a little bit confusing. There were many changes of government and several revolutions and a lot of this and that. It was a way of putting that together as an historical story, but it was also a way of sort of situating that historical or political story, we might say, within the context of an art history which moves fairly straight line from classicism through romanticism to realism, and complicating that story, and putting it all within the context of Paris itself, which was in the midst of enormous changes. We tend to think that the Paris of change was the Paris of the late 19th century, of the Second Empire. But in fact, beginning with Napoleon in the early 1800s, much was done in making Paris the way that we think of it today as a modern place. And so the idea of trying to situate artistic practice of all sorts within this urban environment was my goal.